Morning, guys. Mark Farashi, another one of my Yack sessions about what's going on in our society right now. Every day that goes by is another day for them to move the ball up the field towards fascism. And we all know what's going on at this point in time. A lot of the scales have fallen off the eyes and people are seeing it for what it is. It's no longer a person like me ranting that people think that they're crazy. They're seeing everything that we're talking about coming true and that this is reality. So I wanted to talk to you today about Antifa Kyle, and I've done a few posts on him where he was in Minneapolis and he was on the front lines fighting the good fight against the fascist Gestapo ICE that they've got out, ripping apart their communities, going after all the immigrants and playing this game of pissing off the populace for no other reason than really to piss off the populace with a justification of they're out after the immigrant. Where's that gone? They stated in the very beginning that they were only after the worst of the worst and the real criminals. Have they done that? No. Everything they're doing is ripping families apart, taking children, and then playing all kinds of psychological games towards what they're doing in regards to grabbing children, pulling families apart, women, children. Doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is that they're starting with the immigrant, just like the Hitler did with the Jews, right? Demonize a part of their society first. That's their first goal. Demonize that part of the society and then do it in such a way that they make them the bad guy so that they can move in their Gestapo squads and disrupt public and do everything they can to rip apart the country so that they can take over the country and move in fascism into the country. We all see it. We know exactly what's going on. He wants to be able to claim martial law so that he can stop the vote. And he's trying everything he possibly can to steal the vote any which way he can, to marginalize that vote to a point where he's taking away the women's vote, making you get ID cards, doing all jumping through all these hoops just so you can go vote on the day that it is to vote, because he knows he's going to lose, right? It's just another cudgel. It's just another way of taking a bat and beating you over the head with it and manipulating what they're doing, right? It's all manipulation. It's all mass psychology. There's a method to the madness. And I've been talking about this for a long time, but every day that goes by, it gets worse and worse. So I've got a perfect example of that. Antifa. Antifa is a slogan that came from the days of Hitler in World War II. It meant anti-fascist. It was the underground. It was the resistance against the Nazis. They moved into France is where it kind of started. It was the underground to go against the Nazis in France. And they coined that phrase and they created a loose organization with no real, they don't have an office. We don't have lights. We don't have a bill that I have to pay. It's an ideology. It's a thought process. It's the underground of communication that we're going to have Antifa. So that slogan makes them afraid to the point where they know that was the resistance against them in World War II and against the fascist state, right? That's what we're dealing with right now. We're dealing with a fascist state, right? That's trying to move that whole fascism into our country and take over our country, right? We know what's going to happen. It's going to end up getting down to the point that the people are the only ones that are going to matter because we have enough of us that we outnumber them 3-1, 4-1. When we finally get fed up with it, we finally realize that there's no other option, that we can't do anything but fight. It's coming, people, whether you realize it or not. So, to my friend Kyle, he got picked up 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe even a month ago now, 3 weeks ago, and they snatched him up because of what he was verbalizing online, his freedom of speech. And he got pretty aggressive with it because he was on the front lines, right? So they've got this propaganda ability to come at him in the state and say it's against the law, and come after him. But here's what they've done more than anything else, whether you realize it or not. They are in control of our communication, our social media. Anybody that's like me or Kyle, anybody, they throttled him about a week before they picked him up to a point where his voice went nowhere. And he knew it. And he was more frustrated. He was more kind of like me. My voice goes nowhere. If I go on to Facebook and I look at my post right now, 0, 0, there are no shares, there's no clicks, there's no likes, there's nothing. It's like my voice is going into an echo chamber like this room right now. I can scream and yell as loud as I want to and nobody can hear me. They're controlling our social media. Okay? All these platforms, Facebook, all of them. Okay? Threads, the new one that they got. Threads is well designed. I like what they've done. You know what they've done? They've created an echo chamber. We can be just like this. I can scream and yell, and the only ones that can hear me are the other ones that are like-minded, and they can collect all that data and all this negativity, and now the state will use it against them, right? And me, right? That's what's coming. They're going to keep trying to push this illegalities, that's the word I'm looking for, excuse me, towards it being against the law to go against the state. And God forbid you should say you're Antifa. Every day that I get up in the morning, I look at my Facebook account, and it has a profile picture. Above that profile picture is a little bubble, like a cartoon bubble, that you can put in music if you want to. You can put, I'm sad. I can do anything I want to with this little spot above that gives me a bubble to express myself. And they've designed it in such a way that you're expressing yourself towards it. What I do with it every day, I am Antifa. Every day I change that slogan. They're going to use that in the court of law against me because the state is going against me, right? Take away my voice by throttling me. They've throttled me down to zero. They did it with Kyle, too, before they snatched him up. He had no voice. It was going nowhere. They were controlling the feed, right? He knew it. It frustrated him. And he's out there on the front lines dealing with that frustration every day long, where they've got gas, rubber bullets, got LDR, what the hell the name of that one device was, where they were sending sound out, and that made him sick for 2 days. He said he puked all over the place, and he was out of it equilibrium-wise, couldn't even get out for a couple days before it finally subsided and went away. It messes with your inner ear. That's your balance. That's everything in your body, right? The state using the might of the state, the power of the state against the small man, against the citizen, right? So what they've done with him is they've taken him and used him as propaganda, because everything he was doing was standing up for being against fascism. And he would start his whole things every day. He would pull down his thing and a big old tattoo, Antifa tattoo on his front breastplate, tattooed on his chest. I am Antifa. So that's why I named him Antifa Kyle, right? Because he came out every day and he did his videos. Now, what they did is they throttled him. They took away his voice where he had no reach at all. And then they took away his voice, and then they demonized him, threw him in a deep, dark hole, demonized him, made sure that all that propaganda was controlled by the state, and all that propaganda negative against him was put out into the sphere. So if you type in Free Kyle Wagner, Antifa Kyle, anything, and try to do a search, that's what you're going to end up with. There's a lot of podcasters on their side. By the way, they put $5 million in a kitty to pay these podcasters with their negative slant on their side, the rights, right? And they demonized him. They demonized him. They make him the big bad enemy, and everybody's comments are all negative against Kyle. He has nobody standing up for him. Nobody's standing up for Kyle, right? He's been thrown into a deep, dark hole. He's being used as propaganda against the state, right? And that's what they'll do. And they're letting him go through the process of going through the legal system, but it's not visible. He doesn't have a lawyer. He doesn't have a sister, doesn't have a mother, doesn't have anybody that's willing to stand up and express themselves for Kyle. Kyle has no voice, right? He's only a propaganda tool at this point in time, right? I've reached everywhere. I've tried to send messages to Adam Mockler. I've sent it to the Midas brothers. I made a phone call to Popak yesterday but his law firm doesn't do that kind of legal aspects. They gave me a link and said, sorry, we can't help you, Mark. Somebody answered the phone. I talked to a young lady. I'm sure they record everything that comes into their site. And they listened to it, and they thought about it. They said, oh, we don't want to get involved with this, right? It's not pretty. So bottom line is, Kyle's sitting in a deep, dark hole somewhere in Michigan. I found out the way to get the most information that I can because I go through AI, and I ask AI, Free Kyle Wagner, what can you tell me about it? And they tell me he's a 37-year-old man, boom, 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 and they kind of run it down. So I've got a general gist of what's going on with Kyle. They shipped him to Michigan. He's in a jail there waiting his process through the legal system with a public defender. What do you think the public defender is going to do? They're going to run him through the system, and the state dictates everything. And that's his only sliver of any hope. He's got a GoFundMe site with a few $1,000s in it. That's not going to be enough to pay a lawyer. I'm hoping that a lawyer watches this, somebody sees it, and picks it up and gives him a voice. Puts it together where they get his family, they get some press so that Kyle has a voice, right? At least give him that much to fight against the all-out state that's coming against him. The state at any time could come in on me because I do that little bubble on my profile every day saying I am Antifa, putting myself up right for pickings, and they're going to come in on me. And what do? Right now, they only catch the times that I'm screaming, I'm yelling, I'm upset, and they only put that out into the press. That's what happened with Kyle. They've saved everything that's a negative against him when he's been upset and saying, let's go do this. Because he's fighting the good fight on the front line. You can't expect any human in that regards to do anything less unless they're a bootlegger and they're on the side of the right, right? So if anybody's watching this, if anybody sees this and you have any legal ability to pick him up as a client and you have some clout, please give him a voice. And then you're going to look, it's going to boost you way up because thousands of people are going to see it because he's got himself in the news because the state's using him as propaganda. He needs a voice on our side, right? And take away their demonization and dehumanizing this man. Let him be human. Humanize the man. Let him have a voice at the least, to go through the process, right? That's all I'm asking. We need somebody that's got enough clout as a legal firm and has enough voice that can get seen when they do this. If it's just Joe Smith over here in the corner, just a starting legal firm, and he comes up to what kind of press is he going to get? We need somebody that's really advocating and can really reach out and give him some clout in regards to humanizing him, in regards to giving him a voice against the state, the propaganda fascist state that we're dealing with right now, right? So I'm going to start posting what is giving to me through AI. They're giving me everything. They're telling me, would you like me to keep an eye on this? Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Because AI is at least right down the middle, right? They state facts as facts. That's AI. There's no embellishment with this side or that side. It's just straight down the line. Physical facts, right? So that's about it. I'm trying my best to do what little I can. I'm not rich. I don't have a lot of money. I can't go hire a lawyer to represent Kyle. I'm in the same position. No money, no nothing. I'm just a voice out here trying to get out that's being subjugated by the state. The state is in full control of our media right now, guys. Online, your voice goes nowhere if they don't want it to go anywhere, right? They're watching me like a hawk. They have me on a geofence on my phone. If I drive away from here, right away my phone rings. Why? They're pinging back to the phone to get my location to be able to follow me, right? It is what it is. I put myself into that position by being vocal, by saying I am Antifa. I wish everybody would say it. I wish everybody would put it on their t-shirts. This fuck ICE? I am Antifa says that you are saying fuck ICE, right? You don't have to say it in the negative way of saying it, right? All you got to do is say I am Antifa, and it says everything to the world. On your hats, on your t-shirts, on bumper stickers. We need to spread it everywhere. And everybody as an American citizen against this fascist state needs to stand up and say you are Antifa. Will you do it? No, because the state has you subjugated and has you fearing. They've chilled your voice because you're afraid of it. Because you're afraid. Right now, me saying it, having my attitude and being as vocal as I am, puts me in risk for the state coming in and throwing me into a deep, dark hole and demonizing me the same way, right? All because I want my freedom of speech and I want to express myself, right? Keep it in mind, people. It's coming to your city. Believe me, they've got half a dozen, all the blue state, LA, anywhere that has, look at what's going on in friggin' Oregon, right? Do you realize how little that community is? But what it is a bunch of liberals that all feel a certain way and love their mother nature. Oregon, some of the best coffee in the world comes from Oregon and their coffee beans, right? They're not growing it there, but they're making it there. They have a lifestyle, purple hair, earrings. Oh my God. So what? That's what's part of being American is. Being able to express yourself and do what you want to do in that expression, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But they'll make it wrong, won't they? They'll say they're going against the government. They're going, this is against the law, illegal, right? Just because they say it doesn't make it illegal, people. All right, I'm going to talk to you later. I'm hoping that somebody steps up and represents Kyle. He needs some help. He needs to be represented with something that gives him a voice, gets him out into the public in such a way. And we need to make that